This episode of Film Riot is brought to you by FreshBooks. They fresh to death. Welcome to Film Riot Mondays. I'm wearing the same jacket because I literally have been wearing this jacket for an entire week. Who's there?
No one cares.
I feel that a lesson in do's and don'ts on set etiquette would be beneficial to everyone. That is an episode of Film Riot that I've wanted to do for a long time, and it definitely needs to be an episode of Film Riot because there are a lot that goes into it, especially, you know, it depends on the type of set that you're on. Like a more of an indie, lower level, no budget type set is where everyone's doing everything, but when you get into the higher levels, you have departments, and those departments aren't really doing much crossover. Audio, you know, the audio department's not touching the camera department stuff. Camera department's not touching the audio department stuff, but with the lower level stuff, everybody's doing a little bit of everything. But some things to keep in mind is obviously listen, pay attention, don't be talking too loud or goofing off when you shouldn't be. Be the first one to jump up to grab something when it's called out for, but when you do, if you know the DP is like, hey, I need a C-stand over here, when you jump up to go get it, say got it. That way other people who are also off to get that C-stand have heard you and you don't have 10 people going to grab the same thing. Speaking of got it, when you're handing off expensive gear, don't let go of that gear until the person you're handing it off to says got it. Same thing when somebody's handing you something. Don't turn on lights in people's eyes. Make sure you say striking or sparking or whatever you want to say, but make sure people know that you're turning on that light. And always, always, always respect the set and leave that location better than you found it, and you should be fine. I want to buy a shotgun mic. Do you recommend any? I always suggest the mics that I actually use, which are Rode mics. I have the NTG3, which I love. That is my favorite all-purpose mic. Then I have the NT5, which is a shorter mic, the NTG8, which is longer, and there's an episode where we talk about all of them, which you can find in the description below, a link for that one to check it out. They also have the new NTG4, which looks really great, and if you want to go very low budget, there's the NTG2, which is a great starter shotgun mic. So any of those. Will the madness ever end? No. Do you write your own scripts or do you do it with a team of friends and coworkers? I write my own scripts. If anything with Film Riot, Josh will go off and write an ad or a sketch and then we'll plug that in. But we don't really do like a writer's table type thing. It's everybody off in their own space, and most of the time it's just me writing it. When it comes to short films, I write all my own short films. The only ones that I wrote with someone was Proximity, which I wrote with Seth Worley, and Adobe the Frog, which I also wrote with Seth Worley because I love him. How does one go about asking people to use their music in a short film or video, such as if I wanted to ask a well-known artist instead of using royalty-free music for everything? It depends on what level of well-known that you're talking about. For one project a few years back, I wanted to use a song from a well-known indie artist who was with an indie label at the time, so I was able to contact that label directly and work a deal with them, but it was still going to end up costing me about $3,000 just to use one song in an internet-only piece, which ended up being way too expensive because it was like more than our production budget for the thing we were doing, so we couldn't do it. If you get into more well-known artists, you're talking about like at least $10,000 for just one song, again, depending on what you're gonna do. To get in contact with these labels, you're going to usually go through a service that handles that and acts as sort of a middleman. You can Google that and find a ton, but using well-known artists' music in your stuff is usually very, very difficult. If you're doing like a student film or something that's non-commercial, that might be a little bit more helpful. Moby has a site, funny enough, somebody tweeted this to me the other day, where he allows you to use his music if it's non-commercial. You can find that in the description below as well. But not to discourage you, but it's just true. Using well-known artist music in your stuff is it's a very difficult process. Last question, which has worked better for you, taking risks or keeping it safe when working on scripts and storyboards? For both writing and storyboarding or shot listing, because I don't really storyboard very often, I don't really think of it in terms of taking risks or staying safe. When I'm writing, I do keep a restriction on myself of keeping in mind what the budget is and things that we can actually pull off and pull off well. But I don't really see that as a hindrance. It more forces me to be creative and come up with better creative solutions for things. When I'm shot listing, I do a pass where it's the unhinged pass. I do whatever the story wants to do, as crazy as it might be. And then I do another pass where I rope all that in, keeping in mind the things that we can pull off and that we can't, and I switch things around with all that in mind. So it's, again, not really an idea of taking risks or staying safe. It's always just an idea of what does this story want to ultimately become. FreshBooks makes things simple, but their specialty is to make your life easier when it comes to invoicing, getting paid, and tracking expenses. If you are doing any freelance work of any kind, and you have a business of any kind on the side or full-time, you need to know about FreshBooks. It's an online tool and the absolute easiest way to get yourself paid, get the accounting done super fast. Everyone dreads doing stuff like sending invoices and getting your numbers straight, but that's where FreshBooks will make everything super simple. Your clients can pay you online, your expenses are automatically tracked as you spend, and all the little details about cash flow are in one place so you always know where you stand. It'll even let you see the full history of any invoice so you'll know if your client has looked at your invoice or not. Head over to freshbooks.com/FilmRiot and don't forget to enter FilmRiot in the How Did You Hear About Us section so they know that you know that we know that you know that they know. You feel me? Logo. So that's it for today, which means it's time for my suggestion of the week. This one is another one that was tweeted to me by someone who is awesome. It's a documentary about Ray Harryhausen. It's like an hour long, and it is awesome. That man was incredible. Definitely check it out right here, and I'll see you guys next week. And until then, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.